You know
It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host,
Well, no.
Geno Jones.
I don't know if they have them. You got hurt. They used to be in there. I don't know if you have.
Hello, it's showtime. What's happening, everybody? The Geno Jones Show. I guess you figured that out. Well, I guess you probably figured out, hey, that dude, that must be Geno. You're right. And I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Please subscribe to the Geno Jones Show right here on the Geno Jones channel.
Okay.
Right here on YouTube. Tell everybody you know, everybody
And you
that
can ask her
you
where
like,
the
that you
rental
can't
car.
stand, that you hate, strangers, aliens. Tell them all.
She needs to know where the
to
Hertz
subscribe to
rental
the
car
channel.
counter is.
Share, like,
you.
and binge watch all my back episodes, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So I'm really looking forward to today's show. Every show I look forward to it because, as my grandfather, Conway Jones, taught me, any day above ground is a good day. But today I've got a guest, very impressive person, very impressive. I got a chance to meet this brother. I heard him on a radio talk show, a morning show, several years ago with a coworker of mine. Shout out to the chef, Edwin Wright, on my sister station, radio station, Heaven 1390 and Heaven 100.1 and AM 1390. So we're going to talk to a brother named AJ Davis very shortly. But first, Gemini, stand up. Celebrate your birthday. All right, celebrating a birthday today is O'Shea Jackson Sr. You're saying, wait a minute, that name rings a bell. O'Shea Jackson Sr.? Ice Cube. Today was a good day. Yes, Ice Cube is 53. Cube is doing his thing. He is doing his thizzle as a business person, movie, filmmaker, actor. His son, O'Shea Jackson Jr. is doing his thing. So shout out to my dude. Big fan of Cube. He kind of went off the rails a little bit, you know, during the political season, and was going to talk to Trump. So look, hey, listen, we give him a mulligan on that, you know. So he came back home. Shout out to Cube. All right, Cube. Cube is 53 today. And R&B singer Carl Thomas is 50 today. And so listen, this is not CNBC. This is the Geno Jones Show on the Geno Jones channel. But I feel obligated to let you know, just in case you hadn't heard, it's going to cost more money to borrow. If you want to borrow money to buy a home, if you need a car loan, maybe money to open up a business, you're trying to get a line of credit, get a new credit card, it's going to cost more to borrow money. For all of that, the Federal Reserve Bank has raised interest rates, I think 1.75%. This is the highest has been raised in like 28 years, and that is the attempt, the federal government's attempt to try to tamp down inflation. So I'm just going to give it to you straight. Now, I don't know how the federal government, because people think, well, Joe Biden, this is just, no. Listen, you've got, especially these oil companies and a lot of these large companies, they are price gouging. They are seizing an opportunity to price gouge. They are making record profits. These oil companies, they reduced production and they raised prices. And they claim, well, we can't increase production because, well, we didn't know that people were going to need this much gas, because when there was a global pandemic and people couldn't leave their homes, that means people couldn't drive. So it's really bullshit. I just got to call it what it is. It's bullshit. These companies, and then a lot of these CEOs, they don't like President Biden. Why? Because they like Orange Hitler, because they want somebody just to come in and let them do what the hell they want to do. I digress. That's a different show. Even though it's not a different show, we might get into that conversation right about now, because the primary elections here in South Carolina and in several states across America were yesterday. We're going to have runoff elections here June 28th here in South Carolina for the elections that were not decided on yesterday. And of course, the general election is going to be on November 8th. So here to talk about all of this is a good friend of mine, AJ Davis. He is the He's a community advocate. He's the co-founder of Low Country Black Parents Association and the co-founder of the Community Solutions Consulting. He is a very impressive dude. There he is. I love it. He's got the terrestrial background. As I'm checking him out in the background, he's in the stars because the brother's got that kind of intellect. His intellect is way up in the stratosphere, whatever sphere where the stars are. And I call him the Geno Jones Show's version of Ellie Nostal, even though he looked like he and Dr. Jason Jackson or Johnson from MSNBC. Y'all could be at least cousins, if not brothers. You get that before?
No, let me say first of all, thank you, Geno, for your very gracious compliments. Both of those brothers, to be considered in the same conversation, that's just a tremendous honor. And I can say that until this show, I've never gotten embarrassed in either one.
Really?
So thank you.
I cannot. Well, okay, I have to believe it because you had no reason to lie. So I brought you on, man, because like I said, I heard you on my coworkers' show, Chef's show. So here in the Low Country, you have been putting in that work as a community advocate. I wish you were on the ballot running for some office yesterday. I've told you that to your face a couple times. So I just wanted to get your take on yesterday, the results of the elections. I want to get your take on the runoffs that we have on January 28th and some strategy that we really need to implement for November 8th, because what's left of this democracy is really on life support. So, and people may not think, oh, what happens? What do you mean? What's going to happen if we lose this democracy? All right, well, women, you know what's going to happen? Your reproductive freedom's gone. No abortions, no birth control pills, no birth control, nothing, no IUD, none of that. You have people that are already, laws that are written that will be, they call it trigger laws, that as soon as the Supreme Court, probably later this month, in early July, when they repeal Roe versus Wade to allow states to make it illegal, which is hypocrisy, because if men got pregnant and if men had to carry life and they had to give vaginal births and C-sections, you would be able to go to the strip club and get lemon pepper wings, a lap dance, and an abortion. You could go to the barbershop. You could watch Game 6 tomorrow night and get an abortion if men got pregnant. And y'all have heard me say that on the show. Women's rights, and I mentioned white suburban Christian moms, they've come for you because this will affect you too. Black folks, especially black men, complaining about what Joe Biden isn't doing this. If you think police brutality is bad now, if this whole MAGA cult gets in power, if you think police, the racist, white nationalist, domestic terrorist, insurrection element that's in law enforcement, local, county, state police offices, federal government, the military. Now, this is not just me opining. AJ, you know this. As a matter of fact, the FBI director said in front of Congress about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, that the biggest threat to America, the biggest domestic terroristic threat is from white nationalism. So can you imagine if the whole MAGA cult gets back in control, they will really feel emboldened. So black people will feel even more threatened. So unfortunately, you could see more situations like Buffalo, and I don't need to say anything about, we understand what domestic white nationalist domestic terrorist looks like, because unfortunately, this Friday on June 17th, 7 years ago, we had a horrible incident at the Mother Emanuel AME Church with a young wannabe white nationalist went to a church on a Wednesday night, sat there, prayed, and read scripture during Bible study for an hour, got up and murdered 9 people. So, and not to mention, let's talk about your money. Remember the child tax credits that you got? Just imagine if families were able to get that $300 per child a month like they were getting. Can you imagine how handy that would be such a lifesaver right now. You got families that lost that money, AJ. Now they're paying more for gas, groceries. If they can find baby formula, they're paying more for rent if they're renting. And on top of it, they lost the $300 per child per month they were getting because the whole MAGA cult said, well, now you all don't need the money. The millionaires, the billionaires need the money. So that's just a few things, and I could go on. I'm going to let you elaborate on that, but because I try to put it eye level, as I like to say, right there where you can see it. So if you go in the barber shop, the hair salon, it's like, well, it don't matter. It does matter, because when you don't vote, you give your power to other people who will take that power and use your power against you. And AJ, you are being a community advocate. I know you've been out here in these streets talking to brothers and sisters of all stripes and colors, trying to educate them and give up the game and say, listen, people, they want you to be apathetic. They want you to feel that you don't have the power, because they want to steal your power and use it against them. So basically, you can have technically what we have now, minority rule. Mm-hmm. How is it that 90% of all Americans, even the MAGA cult, 90% of all Americans, when you add it up, want like federal gun control laws, at least federal background checks for all gun sales. 90% of Americans in 2022 in this polarized country, you've got 66% of all Americans that want the AR-15, sales of the AR-15 assault weapon banned. And we can't get that? I digress. My monologue is over. So I'm just going to shut up and play DJ Cassidy and pass you the mic, brother AJ.
Well, Geno, again, no lies spoken. Yes, political apathy, particularly that of African Americans, is truly at crisis levels. I think it should be noted that yesterday's primary here in South Carolina, when I was looking up, numbers are still coming in. They haven't aggregated or disaggregated the numbers along racial lines, but one glaring fact was we had 15% turnout yesterday.
Wait a minute. I got to stop you. Yeah. 15% of everybody that could vote here in the state of South Carolina.
Sorry, I was off by 1 percentage point. Sorry, 16.
16%.
Yes.
84% of all the people that could vote. So think about it. When we talk about minority rule, AJ, 16% of the people of the state are going to make make a decision for 84% of the rest of us.
In numbers wise, South Carolina has 3,317,605 registered voters, right? And the number of ballots cast yesterday barely cracked 500,000, 531,672 votes in all races yesterday.
And that's out of
all races.
Give us that number again, that total number again.
3,317,605.
Wow.
So basically, if you took the cities of Charleston, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and Columbia, those 4 cities basically determined the outcomes of yesterday's primary. And what I think, your listeners have to understand is, going back to your statements about how we leave so much on the table, I think one of the reasons why we have such a significant amount of voter apathy is because in the African American community, we've never truly been shown how to utilize political capital for what it is worth to us. We've been told, go vote because it's your civic responsibility. What we haven't been told is, go vote because that's how you bring about demonstrable change in your community. The issues that, we talk about on social media, you listed some of them, police brutality, housing affordability, economic empowerment, are all attached to the political apparatus. Well, when we have not been able to adequately invest in that apparatus because we don't know in many cases, and in other cases we've disconnected because we don't believe that the apparatus can work for us, then what happens is that unspent capital becomes capital for someone else. And so when you look at 2022, at the top of your monologue, you were talking about saving the democracy and losing it. And I would dare say, not to make it hyperbolic, we're at that point right now because you listed about, the abortion. Of course, Roe v. Wade, is in the headlines. But let's also not leave out the fact that the Supreme Court also made another decision, basically, that would take away the ability for individuals who are found guilty of a capital crime, right? And so they're found guilty at the state level. New evidence would exonerate them. And so they would take it to the Supreme Court under normal circumstances. Well, the Supreme Court about 2 weeks ago gave an opinion. And I think Judge Clarence Thomas was the writer of that opinion, where they said now the Supreme Court will no longer be the outlet of redress for individuals who have been incarcerated on capital offenses, even when new evidence is presented that would exonerate them and prove their innocence. So basically what the Supreme Court said is, even if you have new evidence that proves your innocence, the Supreme Court will not hear that. And it is up to the state, the individual states, to determine whether or not they would entertain that. So how it used to be, all of the guys who would be locked up for capital offenses, death row, the Supreme Court was where they would always send their appeals with the hope to get their sentences overturned. The Supreme Court has nixed that. Also, another recent opinion decision, I should say, that the Supreme Court just did last week is an infringement upon your Fourth Amendment right, which is against illegal search and seizure. There was a court case that made it up to the Supreme Court, and I forgot the name. I do apologize, but it involved a Border Patrol officer and another gentleman who owned, I believe, an Airbnb, a short stay. He and the Border Patrol officer got into it because the Border Patrol officer came in unannounced without a warrant to his property. They got into it. It was extreme damages or whatever. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, to his property. He then appealed, saying that, the Border Patrol officer was acting in the authority of his role and basically abusing his authority, which was illegal search and seizure on his private property. The Supreme Court just ruled now in favor of the Border Patrol officer. And they have now said that within 100 miles of the U.S. border, Border Patrol agents will have the right to come in unannounced to your property if it's deemed a security threat, and if in the process of coming into your property there are damages or infractions that may take place leading up to, I think, even death, you cannot sue the Border Patrol and they will not be held responsible for that. Those are two decisions that have already trickled out of the Supreme Court. So you're already seeing the erasure of democracy. And the reason why those two things are very interesting to me is because, you and I have both sat by for the last almost 2.5 years listening to the folks on the right, the Trump supporters, the anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, screaming about fascism, screaming about government intrusion, and making all of these hyperbolic statements because they had to wear a mask or someone suggested that they get a vaccine. And here we have blatant evidence of a activist, conservative Supreme Court doing exactly what these people were saying Joe Biden's administration and states were doing, trying to provide public health assistance. So now what I want people to understand is we tie this into voting. When we don't understand the mechanisms of the political process, and it's not just voting, it's understanding voting platforms, understanding how candidates fit into those voting platforms, things of that nature. We oftentimes put ourselves at peril, sometimes unwittingly, for the things that we see happen. Because Donald Trump got elected in 2016, he was able to seat 3 Supreme Court justices. He sat a third of the Supreme Court in one term. One term. But those 3 gave the Supreme Court a conservative supermajority. And for those who don't know or understand, the Supreme Court is appointed for lifetime appointments, nine justices, and pretty much, with the exception of a very few extreme circumstances, there's really nothing you can do to remove them. So their actions pretty much become the law of the land. But again, that ties back to our understanding of the voting process. For folks on the street, Black people, when we look at police brutality, because that always catches the headlines, well, police tie into our justice system. They're an arm of the state. They're an arm of your local municipality. If police officers are now allowed, police officers and other members of the law enforcement community are now allowed to have even more impunity with the way that they go about handling situations and circumstances, then that means Black people and other marginalized people have even fewer ways to file grievances on our behalf to rectify these things. So it comes full circle, Geno, that we must now understand that voting is not a matter of, oh, if I feel like it. Voting now becomes a matter of life or death.
Yes.
Literally.
I always say vote like your life depends on it, because it does. And speaking of life depending on it, let me throw these in here. I meant to throw them in earlier when I was talking about what happens. So we really lose democracy. What do we lose? Let's talk about healthcare, because this MAGA cult already wants to get rid of Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act. Let's talk about public education. These same people that want to ban books, they want to end and destroy, eliminate public education. I wonder why.
Yes.
Why? But they want to ban books, but they want to, like I said, just end public education as we know it today. So where if you couldn't afford to send your child to some private school, then hey, well, good luck. I don't know, let them watch YouTube or whatever. So
education, Geno, is one of the few resources, the few tools, the few weapons against oppression. And I say that, look at any totalitarian regime, look at any dictatorial administration, they always limit people's access to information and knowledge.
Yes.
Because people who understand their power, people who understand their worth, people who understand the mechanisms that are being used to oppress them and the levers that may be available to them to remove that oppression are a threat to the dominant power structure. So it's not just that they want to ban books, they want to ban access to information. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because they don't just want to say, we don't want these books in the library. They also want to make sure that certain topics are not covered. And I know during the whole CRT debate, people were like, oh, well, they're trying to, ban history. Yes, but not just history. I had the opportunity to testify twice this past General Assembly's legislative session, and I got a chance to see firsthand the faces of the people who were out there saying these things that they did not want. They want to control education so that the white-centered power structure can hold on to its past glory. Because we live in the age of the internet. We're having this discussion via the internet. In schools, students now are being exposed to things that our generations could only dream of. And so in addition to the, reading, writing, and arithmetic that we grew up on, now kids are having discussions about social issues. They're having discussions in real time about current events. And so these people want to stifle that because now many white families, especially those on the right, are finding that their children and their grandchildren don't share their same value system. And so what do they do? Where's that coming from? Because obviously it's not coming out of their houses. So they pick the closest thing that they could draw their attention to. That's education. And it should be known that conservatives have had an issue with public education since integration. When America integrated public schools and black and white children were in the same classroom, whites, especially those on the conservative right, the evangelical conservative right, have always had an issue with the idea of black and brown children sharing spaces with their children. Not so much contrary to what, many of them would like to think that their children were so much better, but that our kids would see that we were no worse than them. In many cases, we surpassed them. And so what we're seeing in 2022 is a rebirth, a revival, if you will, of the same rhetoric that we saw during integration. When you look at the political landscape now, when you look at the rhetoric that we saw during the pandemic, what did we see? We saw anti-intellectualism. We saw people who basically only were on with their opinion starting to question doctors, scientists, researchers. We saw the former president of the United States give into that. Then we saw a cavalcade of politicians. And so this crescendo of anti-intellectualism, anti-science is tied into the basis of American racism and the conservative ethos in America, which is conservatives rule by ignorance, not fear, but ignorance. And they rule by ignorance by making sure that they control who knows what, who has access to that knowledge, and who can get it. And so they were able to weaponize that ignorance to the point where it became political capital. And during that time, that's when we saw the rise of the anti-CRT rhetoric, which came from Christopher Rufo. I don't know if people know who that is. Look him up on Google. He is the author of the anti-CRT lie. And that lie was based on not him sitting in a classroom somewhere and listening to a teacher. A teacher, I believe, sent him the agenda of a training that they were at where it was the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in that agenda, some of the materials that were being used was the 1619 Project. That's why they went after Nicole Hannah-Jones and, other well-known authors. And prior to that time, prior to 2021, and you can mark my words with this, no conservative anywhere was saying anything about CRT.
No, they weren't.
Anyway.
So AJ, before I lose your live shot, I want to do this. Let's a thought exercise. We're gonna play act here. You and I,
right.
We're going around the low country, going up and down the state, up and down I-26. We're going in every barber shop, every hair salon, every nail salon, in the hood. Listen, we go into some of these poor white trailer park areas, where they may even have the Confederate flag or the orange Hitler flag. What would you tell those people, especially the young brothers and sisters, in terms of a simple strategy? I think we got about 2 minutes left. Simple strategy in terms of what they need to do starting June 28th in the runoffs, and definitely what we need to do, because I think you've given a great reason why November 8th, this might be the last chance to say what's left of what, because there are people who really don't want democracy. They want democracy as long as old white men can be in power, but they don't want a democracy where people that look like me or you, or that look like Mia McLeod or Crystal Matthews can be in power. So what would you tell those young brothers and sisters or anybody And like I said, we're going in the barbershop or the hair salon. So, we got to, as they say, give it to them straight, no chaser. What would you say to them?
Right. Real simply, I would say those of us who travel to places like Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami, New York, wherever, and we look at those places like, yeah, man, I like that. I love that because they hold a significance for us. We see other folks who look like us, who seem to be successful. They enjoy life. They have those amenities. We can have that here.
Yes.
But we have to become more involved and educated about the political process. Those cities, those areas have what they have because those people oftentimes are politically involved and engaged. And the way we can start that is by getting behind progressive candidates. You mentioned Representative Crystal Matthews. If there is one person that I saw in the primary that I feel should have skyrocketed more, it is her, because she is the future of what political representation in South Carolina should look like. So on June 28th, we definitely need to push and elevate her. Also, I'm disappointed with the turnout for Mia McLeod. She's another sister. South Carolina has been, like you said, under the authority of white men who have a plantation politics mentality. To my young people, we don't have to continue leaving our state to get the things that we want. Living here in Charleston, look at how Charleston has changed the aesthetic to meet the desires of a particular demographic. In this case, whites who move here, who are of a certain socioeconomic status. We here as voters, young people here as voters, and as a part of the political capital system here, can also have those things. We just have to know how to show up, and we know how to utilize very strategically our vote, because politicians come to young people because they are the future of voting in America.
And
so
AJ,
I'll stop there, Geno.
Let me just jump in here. I got about 60 seconds, so I just want you to co-sign something for me to those same young brothers and sisters of all races and ethnicities and sexual orientations and ideologies, especially for the brothers and sisters. We have the numbers in terms of black people and a coalition of brothers and sisters, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, our Asian American brothers and sisters, Native brothers and sisters, and anti-racist white young brothers and sisters. We got the numbers, which is the black folks. Yes. Am I right or wrong? We got the, if we turn out, if we register, turn out, and vote.
Yes. And it should be noted that South Carolina is one of only 10 states that has a black population above 20%. I think we're at 27, maybe 28. There are only 10 states. And the South as a whole accounts for over 52% of the total black population in America. Wow. So we don't have to continue believing that the South is going to be red forever. Young black people, young, intelligent, progressive black people, my street corner hustlers, my dudes who just work the 9 to 5. It is truly.
All right. Wow. I hate it. I lost my man's live shot, but you heard the brother, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we're definitely going to get it back on. Shout out once again, AJ Davis. He's a community advocate, a co-founder of Low Country Black Parents Association, and the co-founder of the Community Solutions Consulting. Thank you, AJ. Listen, he is a regular, as of now, he is a regular on the Geno Jones Show, a regular contributor, because as you see, the brother is a wealth of knowledge, and he's got passion for his people, passion for the culture, passion for humanity. All people, really. All people that just want equity and fairness and just want to be able to live their life, live their best life without the hate and ignorance and fear and racism and hate and misogyny and sexism. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in LA on the West Coast. Please subscribe to the Geno Jones channel and tell everybody, tell everybody to subscribe to the channel Share, like, and binge watch. Share this and every episode. Like every episode and binge watch all my back episodes. Shout out to the official stylist and wardrobe consultant for the Geno Jones Show, Allie Jones and Bruce Gage. Allie Jones, fashion designer, fashion design major. You can check her out on Instagram. Lexi with 2 X's, LEXXIE.Nicole underscore is that little line, that little dash at the bottom, designs. Lexi with 2 X's, Nicole underscore dash below the bottom, designs. Bruce Gage on Instagram. Mario, it's actually Miglio di Mario Uomo. Mario Uomo, his own personal collection. So you can check out Allie's drip, her collection, her fashions, and Bruce Gage, his private line for his business. Mario, Miglio di Mario Uomo. MIGILIODIMARIOUOMO. And shout out to Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. You can check him out on Instagram. Kel be cutting up, because Kel be cutting up. As you can see, KELBECUTTINUP on Instagram. He is the CEO and owner of Designer Cuts here in Goose Creek. Shout out to my mom, Mary Dixon, my #1 fan, my executive producer, all the way from Chicago. Shout out to my man, Groove Master Dre. What up, Dre? And everybody else watching the show, I appreciate it. Once again, I want to thank brother A.J. Davis, once again, a community advocate. Very impressive brother. You will definitely see him back on the show on a regular basis. We're going to do this on the regular because we got a lot of work to do. All right, the next live edition of the Geno Jones Show is going to be Thursday. Tomorrow, if you're watching me live, and if you're not, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, getting ready for the weekend. Getting ready. It is Juneteenth week. And this weekend, Sunday, is Juneteenth Day and Father's Day. So we got a Juneteenth Day weekend and Father's Day weekend, all happening on the same weekend. So, and listen, to all those in law enforcement, as a matter of fact, to mayors, governors, county commissioners, police chiefs, all right? I'm going to need you all to keep your eye, and just the rest of us, black folks, all right? Heads up, keep your head on a swivel, all right? Because there are people who want to kill us, all right? The FBI has told us that the biggest domestic terroristic threat is from white nationalism and basically white hate groups, hate crimes. I hate to refer to it, but look at what happened. You had 10 black people just grocery shopping at a supermarket in Buffalo. All right? We know what happened here in Charleston at the Mother Emanuel AME Church 7 years ago on Friday, June 17th, 2015. 9 black people murdered inside a church by somebody that sat in a church with them and read scripture and prayed with them and did Bible study. So there are people who wanted to kill us. That's just a fact. So I tell you that not to be afraid, because I know we are fearless. We have overcome worse than this, but just to be aware. And it is the responsibility of law enforcement, because yes, some of that element, some of that racist element, some of that white nationalism, anti-terrorist, domestic terrorist, because it was interesting. These same people that stormed the Capitol, that tried to overthrow the United States government, that wanted to lynch, said hang Mike Pence. And I saw today video, you had people searching out, looking for Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and other politicians who were white. So these same white nationalists and hate groups and the Patriot Front and these neo-Nazis, these domestic terrorists, cowards, they don't like black people. They don't like Jews. They don't like Muslims. They don't like Mexicans. They don't like Asian Americans. They don't like gays or lesbians. They don't even like themselves. They hate women. So, and they don't like law enforcement. They don't like government, period. But you have some of that element, a significant number, according to the head of the FBI about almost 2 years ago in front of Congress. He said it early. The biggest domestic terroristic threat is from white nationalism. So you have people with this hatred and ideology who are wearing badges, guns, wearing police uniforms in police departments, county sheriff's office, out patrolling, in the military, federal police officers. So I'm gonna need people who are in charge of law enforcement. We don't want no problems. You know who the problem is. You need to get their ass out of there. And you need to make sure that black people who are celebrating and all those who are gonna celebrate with us, celebrating Juneteenth weekend and Juneteenth day, celebrate without any incident. But in the meantime, we're gonna make sure that we keep our head on the swivel. As I said, because the attitude among many brothers and sisters, especially my millennials and Gen Zers, I'm cleaning it up because my mother's watching, but you can fool around and find out if you want to and get your feelings hurt. Now, I substituted the fool around for another word that started with F that rhymed with luck. So don't fool around. Don't look up and find out, because everybody loses in that case. All right, everybody, I want to thank you for watching once again. I want to leave you with, please be blessed. Pray for peace. I'll see you live Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, the Geno Jones Show. Until then, thanks for watching. Go back and binge watch my episode from yesterday and the other day and just binge watch all the episodes. Pop you some popcorn and enjoy the Geno Jones Show.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.